I always think it's like these sorts of adventures when I'm halfway through and I question why I even am doing this is the kind of adventures I try to shoot for. Hey y'all, I'm Len. I'm helping put together this really amazing ride with a few friends of mine called the Sky Islands Odyssey. We'll actually be riding around some of these larger mountain ranges in the Sonoran Desert. It's 220 miles and about 15,000 feet of elevation gain.
Probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
So if you've never done an adventure like this before, I don't blame you.
Oh wow, she's hustling.
Okay, well, can everybody kind of see this? Okay, so we're gonna start at the base of Mount Wrightson in Madera Canyon.
Our team is really great. You know, they're athletes of a company that I run called Natives Outdoors. We do a lot of work with indigenous athletes, and so Aaron Mike is also local, spent a lot of time here in the Tucson area. The next person, McKaylee Oliver, she hasn't actually done a bike ride this long before, so it's gonna be a first for her.
I think I'm just along for the ride, honestly. There's a big period in my life where I actually forgot how to ride a bike in general, but we're back on bikes now.
And Sarah Swallow is an amazing bike rider. She's actually the person that developed this route.
We are doing a modified version of the full Sky Islands Odyssey route. It's gonna be 216 miles and 14,500 feet of climbing. Who's gonna be driving tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one person drive, and we just have, I think it's good like every day to mark a couple places for the driver to know where to stop.
So we're gonna be using this Ford Bronco Sport as a support and gear wagon. And what that means is we'll be loading up a lot of nice food and also our sleeping gear and our tents. And what that means is that we can take off some of the load from our bikes and move a little bit more quickly and also just have a little bit more cush ride of an experience. So you can do these long distances and not feel completely hosed after the end of it.
We're essentially doing a gravel ride every day, and we get to camp at a different spot every night. Well, yeah, I guess we do have a lot to do today. We got to pack and get our bikes set up and...
Sweet, so let's get to it.
Okay, let's do it. All right.
So the Sky Island Odyssey is a really interesting route. It goes everything from highways to four-wheel drive roads over these 220 miles. And if you're looking to support it with a vehicle, you really have to be judicious in what vehicle you choose. The Ford Bronco Sport is a really good option for this. It has high clearance, it has four-wheel drive, and it also has these GOAT modes, which are basically suited for different types of off-road situations. So since we're going to be using the Ford Bronco Sport as our sag wagon, we're really going to need to adapt it to our needs. And that means a few additions. We have a Yakima tent that will go on the roof, an awning that will protect us from the sun, and then also a really sweet bike rack. And my favorite is the Dometic cooler that we'll get to put in the back, which will hold cold drinks and other sorts of things that will need to be refrigerated.
So I'm gonna line mine up just flush with the beginning part of this piece that kind of angles up. Here, Aaron, you wanna tighten that, just pull that strap all the way in. Some of these crossbars can kind of be a little bit complicated, a little bit of 4D chest to put on. Generally, if you're adding a few additions to it, I tend to like to leave them a little loose and then put everything together, and then at the end do a big sweep to tighten everything down. Really helps having two people. So it's great to have Aaron on the other side. I can give this some more, because the awning is going to go right on the ends. So we're going to need a little bit more on this side. We left a little bit of spacing out here on the edge so that we could mount the awning. That's kind of our tip for now, so we're going to get to putting on the roof tent. All right, ready?
Yeah.
One of the things you just really have to keep an eye out for is, one, having enough people to load and lift the tent onto the roof. It's quite heavy. Aaron and I were able to do it. It was a little bit of a challenge, but the main thing that we did within that was just making sure that we had those crossbars a little bit loose, and that allows us to have a little bit of flexibility when we're lining it up and making sure everything's even and squared up. Perfect. All right, so we can tighten it down. We were really psyched on getting this tent on the roof, and we didn't check
the direction in which the tent opened before we put it on the roof. We got it right the first time where it opens up and will fold over to the passenger side. But how we gotten this wrong, it would have flipped over onto the driver's side, and that's where the awning goes, and we would have had to do this whole rejiggering. That would have been really a pain. So glad we got it right this first time. So now we're gonna throw on the awning.
Yeah, real loose on them.
The main takeaway with the awning is just making sure that all of the pieces that allow for adjustment and movement are loose before you put it on.
So we'll tighten these and then we'll go and tighten the 13s up top.
Just make sure this is, yeah, it looks great. And then once we're done, we tightened everything up. The main thing is not to put too much pressure or tension on it. You don't want to strip those nuts and then be in a situation where you have a loose or dangerous awning. And then our last check at the end is just pulling on the various pieces that we put on and making sure that there's no movement. And so generally I try to put some body weight on it and really yank on it just to make sure that there's no any sort of free play in the system. And thankfully everything's nice and tight up top, and so we're gonna throw on the bike rack now. So this is the Yakima Exo Rack. It's pretty awesome because it has a lot of modular features. You can actually put a pretty big box on here. You can also add like a table. So it basically becomes this really awesome place for cooking or whatever you may do at camp. But for our purposes, we just threw a bike rack on. So we can carry 2 bikes in the back, and that's gonna serve us perfectly when we're using this as a sag wagon. So next we're gonna throw in the Dometic fridge and basically hook it up to power. Set that here. We want to have it open, so let's flip it. So cool, so we have the Goal Zero 1500 right here and the Dometic CFX. The main thing to think about when you're putting these together is where the power source is on the vehicle. Here on the Bronco Sport, it's on the passenger side. We decided not to plug the refrigerator directly into the vehicle because we wanted to make sure that we could basically preserve battery, and so that's why we have this Goal Zero here, and it's a really nifty product. The main thing is when you're driving or if you're going down dirt roads, you want to make sure that all of these loads are secure. So for this Goal Zero, we're going to actually place it down here in the footwell, and for the CFX in the back, we're also going to secure it as well. So we just wrapped up our quick build out. What's really awesome is that these Yakima additions really added quite a bit to the Bronco Sport. The rooftop on top will actually keep us off the ground, which is really nice in the desert because the ground actually gets really cold at night. And the awning will bring us a lot of shade in the middle of the day when we're looking to escape some of the direct sunlight. And what's really awesome about this rear bike rack is it'll swing out of the way and we can access the Dometic fridge in the back. What's really awesome about this fridge is that it requires no ice. It'll be running off electricity off of the Goal Zero, or in some instances off of the Bronco Sport itself. And we can get those cold drinks in the middle of the hot day. I think the most important thing is really just to like do your dishes before you go on a big adventure. It's like big adult energy. Yeah, I mean, going on these huge trips, like water out here in the Sonoran Desert is a hot commodity for sure. I'm looking at 1 to 2 gallons a day, but in the days prior before going, I'm like staying super hydrated. That means like looking at your pee and what color it is, and then also just making sure that you're staying on a consistent schedule with how much water you're drinking. So, bottoms up. In bags. Oh, it's my ski stuff. Probably don't need this for this trip. Yeah, one of the things for these particular trips is having a light but warm bag. On this particular trip, I'm actually taking a 20 degree because it'll get pretty chilly. All right, shoes. Good old Puffy. Oh yeah, this is the Beta. Ready for camp. We can toss that food thing up front.
Doing a trip like this, having support, it definitely makes it a lot easier to cover a lot of ground quickly. There's definitely the comfort aspect of it as well, where we don't have to necessarily be suffering the entire time. We can enjoy the landscape a little bit more with a little more gear.
Since I'm kind of newer at biking, I think it'll be I'll be a little bit nervous to like stop and not flip off my handlebars or something.
I'm just excited to see their reaction to the change of scenery because I find that it reveals something around each corner, and I think each mountain range, each sky island down there has its own characteristic, and it's just a really peaceful, quiet place. So I'm excited to just see what they think.
You know, biking 220 miles, it's, yeah, it's not something you know, do alone. You do it with some crazy friends and like, I don't know, people that are into suffering as much as you are.
See you at the top? Who's got the keys? How's it going?
Good, I got stung by a bee. It's steep.